Welcome to the Big Brain Time Debate Podcast. We got Halloween coming up. I'm all decked out in my Jack Skellington merchandise, and we are debating whether or not Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween or a Christmas movie. How about we all introduce ourselves?
I'm Jared. It's a Halloween movie.
I'm Joey. I'm also going for the Halloween movie side.
I'm Seth. It's a Christmas movie.
I'm Ira. I'd say it's a Christmas movie.
I'm Kyle. I'm in the middle because I actually just recently saw this film for the very first time. So, yeah.
I would like to point out, by the way, that I think that the Halloween side has a severe disadvantage because Seth knows this movie better than anybody here.
That's true. Seth did have like a really in-depth analysis. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, wow, this is like a full 3-paragraph text here.
Yeah, I think he's got an edge on us. Also, he looks like Ozzy Osbourne, which I always admire.
You always admire that, man.
I love Ozzy Osbourne.
But the bats! Protect the bats!
Honestly, Kyle, I've only watched, I've listened to the music and I've watched parts of it many, many times, but I've only actually watched the full thing, I think, once, which it's not even a long movie, but
Right.
part of me kind of wishes I watched this when I was young, and then part of me knows if I watched this when I was too young, I would have freaked out because I got scared of stuff that was I got scared of Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. So
yeah.
I would have probably flipped out. The most scary part is that song in the beginning, to be fair, but
Right. It starts out on all cylinders.
Really quickly, I'm gonna lay out my point here because I have to run, unfortunately.
Yes, Jared, please argue.
So here's what I'll say. It's a Halloween movie because I think the base of the movie is Halloween. It's Halloween Town. That's the main, it all is Halloween. It's holiday world. There's all the different holidays in the trees. I think that's what they are. And the main part of the movie takes place in Halloween Town.
the Christmas part is more kind of not like a side plot, but it's almost more like an objective. It's you start with Halloween and then Jack is I want something new, and so then he discovers Christmas.
Yeah,
But
yeah, basically.
Since you're starting with Halloween, that's the beginning, and that's kind of the base where the movie returns at the end.
That's the beginning, and that's where they return to at the end. I think the whole point was that he doesn't belong in Christmas Town. He belongs in Halloween Town. We saw what happened when he tried to be Santa Claus. It did not turn out very well, and that's kind of I think that's the point, is that it's a scary, spooky movie. It's not you don't watch it and think Christmas, you think Halloween. It's scary. That's the point. The essence is it's scary. So that's my 2 cents. And I gotta run. But
Goodbye, Jared. Thank you for
Hi,
joining.
Jared. Thank you.
Popping in.
yes. Bye.
I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this, but if I had a guarantee that there would be a lot of effort and love put into it, I think it would be really cool to see I don't know if a sequel, but another one where it's a crossover with a different holiday.
That'd be fun.
Jack chased the tank on Valentine's Day or something. I don't know. I feel that'd be interesting.
Yikes.
Also, I just want more of that Danny Elfman music.
Oh, yes.
I can see a goth Valentine's Day kind of vibe that
Yeah.
he tries to create.
So, in any fantasy story, you generally start out with whatever the normal world is. Now, usually your baseline for normal is 1950s British place, as in Narnia. And so you, not 1950s, it's World War II, okay, whatever.
Same era.
Yeah. But then they go through a door, a portal, if you will, very similar to Jack going through the Christmas door, and they go to another world. Do you think of Chronicles of Narnia as a British World War II film, or do you think of it as a Narnia fantasy movie?
Okay, but to be fair, I feel they spend a lot less time in the Narnia movie in the actual real world. I feel the bulk of that movie is in Narnia. I feel Nightmare Before Christmas is more trying to meld the two worlds. The people in Narnia aren't really trying to bring Narnia aspects back to the real world. Not saying that wouldn't be interesting, but I feel it's more just these two kind of incompatible or seemingly incompatible worlds kind of trying to be pulled together by Jack, and then it doesn't work out. or at least he doesn't make it work out. But okay, I have an argument. I actually haven't done. I mean, I was trying to count them while you were talking, but I feel like the biggest part of this movie, at least for me, is probably the music, and then like close second is the animation, because those I love those both about
The
the
stop
same.
motion is really good.
Yes,
Yeah.
but for music, I was trying to think. I just looked up the soundtrack, and there's 20 songs, and I think there's maybe like 3 or 4 possibly that I would call like a Christmas song, like they're centered around Christmas. So like the vast majority of the soundtrack is more like, I feel like you can get more Halloween songs out of this. Whereas you have like What's This and Making Christmas and maybe a couple others if you're trying to do like, and that's just looking at the music. I realize there's a whole movie around it, but the music is a big part of it. So.
All right, so you talked about amount of time spent in the world, and you're mostly talking about proportion here.
Yeah.
The amount of time, the amount of this or that. I'm gonna argue from the amount of significance, which is that plot-wise, the story doesn't really exist without Christmas. It isn't a story, it is a flat baseline. Going back to that Narnia argument, even if they spent only a third of the movie in Narnia, while we would still see it, it'd definitely be a very, very different story, but the thing that would pop and would really drive the plot and would make the film what it is the Narnia aspect, is the fantasy aspect, or in this case, is the Christmas aspect. And I would argue that the themes of one of the biggest parts of Christmas, and this may be debatable, but is romance, right? Hallmark movies, constant romance. Most Christmas movies have this element there. And I think I remember hearing something about it being like considered the most romantic time of the year, which I think could be Valentine's Day. I think people associate Valentine's Day with more stress. But going off that logic, what is the resolution of this film? It is actually him throwing away the costume. The costume doesn't fit him. The costume is the part that makes it Halloween. But what in the end is the resolution that makes the story what it is? The beautiful snowfall as Jack and Sally finally fall in love.
Yeah, and isn't it more like again, it's been like probably a year since I watched it. I think I last watched it last Halloween, but isn't it kind of like he learns to like be satisfied? Because if you didn't have the Christmas part, I will concede that it would basically be a movie with like a problem and no way of solving the problem. Because the problem in the beginning is he's tired of Halloween, basically. He keeps doing it all over and over, and it's kind of meaningless at this point. So Halloween does have, or Christmas does have an impact in that way. Although at the end, he does kind of just resolve to be like, yeah, I should probably just stick with Halloween, right?
Yeah, but going off of what Seth was saying with like, that him, Jack and Sally in the snow at the end of there, like, he starts off this obsession with Christmas because, he's down in his life and he ends up through Christmas. And, a good chunk of the plot is, him trying to find out what the Christmas spirit is, what that aspect of Christmas gave new life into him, and, him trying to find that. And, going towards the end, he finds that in Sally, and, the basic, in a way, it's kind of like, finding what made Christmas Town special for him, basically, or what he found. And, so basically the overarching theme goes into, could be interpreted as, him finding him discovering what Christmas is and what makes it special, kind of losing track of what that is, and then, finding it at the end.
Yeah, and arguing from that point, I'd say the thing that he loves the most about Christmas is that it's a new feeling. And it's a feeling that nobody else can seemingly understand. There's no intimacy there. He tries to explain to all the townspeople, and they just don't get it, because he's kind of he has more emotional range than any of the other inhabitants of Halloween Town, except Sally. She is the only one with the emotional maturity, or the sort of emotional range, so to speak, to understand him. And in the end, that seems to be all he was really looking for, understanding, and a break from that isolation.
The scene at the end where they kiss is like really romantic until you think that Jack can't kiss anybody. He doesn't have any lips. And I took that joke from a Cinema Sins movie or video, so I can't claim credit for it. But
All right, we're getting into the last few minutes before Zoom kicks us off.
Okay.
Closing statement.
I'd like to come in and say a little bit if that's all right, because I haven't talked that much.
Please do.
This is the first time I've ever seen this movie, and I've heard it expressed both ways that it's a Halloween and Christmas film. On my viewing, I want to say that it's a Halloween film, and that's because it just felt like that was the aesthetic they were going for. Like a lot of the imagery and a lot of the animation is very Halloween themed and very creepy, spooky themed. And I think it's more appropriate to call it a Halloween movie than a Christmas movie. I mean, it has Christmas elements. I would say it's probably an amalgamation of both, but I would say it leans more in the Halloween direction in terms of its aesthetics and its design and its themes.
I have a point, just a short point. I think that, in my opinion, you should watch it during Halloween, because if you didn't watch this movie during Halloween and then you were like, well, I'll just watch it for Christmas. If you watch it for Christmas, then by that point, Halloween is past. And it's not like, it would be like, oh yeah, I remember Halloween. But if you watch this movie during Halloween, you can appreciate the Halloween aspects, and then you can be like, oh, well, it's just Christmas in like another 2 months anyway. So it's like you can appreciate both because they're like right at that same time period.
Yeah.
But if you watch it during Christmas, then you're like, okay, it's kind of weird to watch it, like all this Halloween stuff. I mean, some people start putting like Christmas stuff in like Walmart in October anyway. So, you know.
I do want to tag on a quick point when you're talking about aesthetics. While the stop motion is a creepy aesthetic, it is actually pretty Christmassy in a lot of ways, mostly with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but there are a lot of Christmas stop motion specials.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably what it was trying to evoke too.
So have we come to an agreement? Maybe we haven't.
I might have
feel
to
like-
go Halloween.
Okay, I feel like it's mostly Halloween. But you know what? It's good enough that if you want to watch it for Halloween and Christmas, go for it. You know?
Yeah, I would say both. Like, just watch it at Halloween and Christmas at your leisure.
Just listen to that good music.
Yeah. Or listen to the Nightmare Revisited album, which some of those I actually like those versions better. Some of them, not all of them, but
All right.
yes.
Thank you all for joining us, and see you next week.
Happy Halloween.
Halloween.
Halloween.